You ready for this? Several months ago, I was in a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about a situation that I was in, and I was dating someone. I was new to the dating world out of a very long-term relationship. And I was telling him a story, and I said that I was seeing this guy, and it was really great, it was sexy, it was fun, it was exciting, and then one day it just stopped. And it left me wondering what was going on. I called, I texted, I didn't get any response. In the middle of the conversation, my friend blurted out, "You got ghosted." I said, "What?" My heart was saying, yeah, that's what happened, as he was explaining to me what ghosting meant through the story that I just told. And my head said, that shit doesn't happen to me. Do you know who I am? I don't get ghosted. Needless to say, my brain took over, my ego went on hyperdrive, and I had to figure out what was going on in the dating world. So we're going to look at technology and how technology actually is affecting relationships. I've heard thousands of stories like this in my office. I had to pull together 20 plus years of information on dating, sex, love, relationships, human behavior to start the journey that I'm going to take you on to figure out what is going on so that these types of questions can actually begin to stop or slow down. I had sex with someone, and after the first time we had sex, that was it. It was done, okay? And people are left wondering what is going on. I see a shift that's happening in society. We have a dysfunctional tolerance for dysfunctional social behavior. With the dawn of social technology and dating apps and on-demand sex apps, like, do you guys know that you can actually you can go on an on-demand sex app and you can actually basically shop for sex. You can shop for relationships. We're living in a consumer model of relationships now, okay, where we shop for sex and relationships, and then basically what happens is when we're done, we throw them away. I call these types of behaviors that people do, the unconscientious objector. These individuals are dodging the draft, and what I want to do is give you some level of a psychological profile for these people so that you can dodge them, okay? Because you don't want to be in a relationship with these types of people if you even get to the relationship part. So my research took me to the field of epigenetics, okay? So this is going to get a little bit complicated. Stay with me here for a minute. Epigenetics is basically how the environment actually interacts with your genes to start to shape things like social behavior. So ladies and gentlemen, love is epigenetic, okay? Love is not just an emotion. Love is a biological process, okay, that is affected in many different ways by the behaviors and the situations that we end up involved in. So positive or negative experiences in life can alter the expression of genes, okay? So in my research, I'm looking at okay, how is DNA going to change with ghosting? And let me tell you something, ghosting isn't the only thing. There's ghosting, there's breadcrumbing, there's simmering, there's benching, there's icing, there's all of these things that are happening now. And this is where you guys are going to have to do some homework, because this is the first TED Talk where you're going to have to do some homework, because I can't talk about all those things because I've got a certain amount of time, okay? So basically, social rejection activates the same pain pathways, and this is really important as well as physical pain. There's a biological link between rejection and pain. So ghosting and those types of behaviors are now causing people anxiety and depression and even post-traumatic stress disorder in some people. So because of communication technology and social media, what's happening is we're getting a reduction in these two really important neuropeptides, oxytocin and vasopressin. Okay, oxytocin is the love hormone, vasopressin is actually the protector hormone. So as people start to have these types of experiences in the dating world, their love chemicals go down. Okay, so now they're going into relationships not up to par with where they should be. So this is part of the problem is what's called the paradox of choice, okay? On social media, we have so many choices, seemingly endless choices, that actually begin to paralyze us, okay, from making a decision. So we end up in a holding pattern in relationships, so we don't end up giving full intimacy in relationships because why? There's so many other choices involved, okay? You think about your Facebook page, you think about your Instagram page, you think about all of your social media and how many actual options you actually have. When you are in a relationship and you're having a bad time, when you are single and having a bad time, there's a tension that comes at you from all over the place, okay? And that is something that is a paradox in and of itself, okay? So I needed to know more about this, okay? So I did what any modern day social scientist, I'd like to think of myself as that, okay, would do. I went to Facebook, okay? I went to the Lion's Den, and I asked this question, okay? What are your thoughts on modern day sex and relationship issues like ghosting, benching, icing, simmering, all of those, and have these basically become, a part of, who you are, okay, and what you're accustomed to when it comes to a relationship. 120 responses within about 30 minutes, and these are some of the things that are paraphrased in these, okay? Everything from humility to hopelessness to, how do I have sex with a ghost? Okay, some people had no idea what the hell ghosting was, okay, which was nice to see because of the, innocence, okay? People need to grow up. How do you, how do we start to navigate through this? To my favorite one, whatever happened to good old-fashioned teabagging? And I second that, okay? Because I think the teabagging stuff before the ghosting stuff was a much healthier behavior. I also needed to go to the street. Here's what we found on the street.
I know what ghosting is.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I do know what ghosting is.
It's when you all of a sudden are talking to a guy and then you no longer respond to them. You just kind of disappear off of the face of the earth.
All the time.
Oh, my God. Have I not?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess.
I kind of ghosted my current boyfriend.
I've kind of ghosted someone.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you asked if I've done it before. I think all of us have.
You meet somebody that might be very attractive to you, but you like this other person and you ghost them because you want to spend more time or your attention and energy developing a relationship with this other person that, you kind of invested a little time in.
It's easy. It's easy, it's convenient, and you know what? It doesn't require you to own up to no longer talking to the person anymore.
It could sometimes be that they are misleading in what they tell you. Yeah, so you kind of feel like betrayed.
Screw you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm betrayed.
Yeah.
You see that you could be like a possibility, but that doesn't mean it could be a possibility right then and there.
At that time, I was in a relationship with him, yes.
I was more interested in somebody else.
I just thought that the person was really not at the intellectual level that I was expecting, so I just didn't know how to say that because I just don't want to lie to the person and say it just didn't work out.
But I just didn't really know how to have the conversation of, hey, I met someone else, you're cool, but not cool enough.
I get attention from people that I don't necessarily want all the time. So I definitely have let people not get a message from me ever again.
And then you ghost them.
Very recent. I didn't know it was called ghosting, but it is. I feel like it's an easy way out.
I think it's because they have something to hide. Or they're probably kind of like met someone that they really like, but they kind of like don't know how to get out of the current relationship. Or they're maybe just afraid to be in a relationship. Or kind of like too much too soon.
I think it's an inability to communicate that you aren't interested in someone.
There's a lot of reasons. One, he was married and chickened out.
Okay.
Two, he was not married and he was interested, but he chickened out. Like this one guy in particular, he came all the way to my house and he came over to bring me chicken soup because he knew I was sick. He came over and he was very polite, he didn't touch me, he was just very cordial, it was a nice thing. And then we had plans the following weekend to go into the city and we're like, yeah, this will be great. It's going to be a nice weekend. and then silence, and then nothing.
The way I put things together, that the guy was actually married and hadn't told me in the very beginning. I think it makes them so uncomfortable, the thought of saying something to somebody that's going to hurt their feelings or hurt their ego or hurt their pride, that they kind of just, well, it's easier to just disappear. I don't have to be the bad guy by saying I'm not into you. A lot of times when you reject someone romantically, no matter how nice or how diplomatically you do it, that you may run into someone being belligerent and abusive with you. And I know that that's happened with me on more than one occasion, especially when I was doing the online dating thing, that it might make some women gun shy about actually being direct about their romantic rejection of somebody. For me, it doesn't do that, because I still believe in giving somebody the respect of a direct, reasoning, or, this isn't going to work out for whatever reason.
I feel like people will ghost because they don't want to deal with the uncomfortable situation that could lie ahead if they were to reach out.
Instead of saying, hey, I'm sorry, I really don't want you to be a part of, I really don't want your attention.
Conversation to have.
It's an easy way out.
So this guy brings this woman chicken soup. Now, I don't know about in your world, but in my world, that means love, okay? Chicken soup equals love, okay? And then all of a sudden, he's gone, okay? So I'm thinking, when I'm hearing these stories and I'm creating this profile of what's actually going on, like, who does this stuff? Okay, and why, all right? And what's the underlying causes? I'm a therapist, okay, by nature, as well as by profession. So what happens is I need to figure this stuff out. I need to figure out what the profile is, what the underlying reasons of this unconscientious objector actually is, okay? So what I found is, first of all, it's a classic case of FOMO, okay? Fear of missing out, okay? People are all over social media because they have a fear at this point that, they're going to be missing out on something, or missing out on somebody else, okay, or somebody, some fun thing. The other thing is that from my work with love addiction and sex addiction, this is a classic case of love addiction, okay? Somebody who ghosts or breadcrumbs or ices or whatever, where basically once the thrill is over, they're on to the next pursuit. So these individuals tend to be high on attachment avoidance with some anxiety floating through as well. Others will not respond to my needs is either a conscious or unconscious belief. They have a negative view of partners, okay, potential partners. They avoid intimacy and conflict at all costs, okay? That's a main key there. Ill at ease when someone is too close, and they actively dodge the draft of intimacy, okay? So there's also a dichotomy in thinking here that's really important to understand, because you have the relationship seekers, all right, and then you have the unconscientious objectors, aka the ghost, okay, or the simmerer or the icer or whatever, okay. So the human is out of the equation for these individuals, right, and they take no responsibility. Avoidance is better than admitting any wrong, and that was really one of the things that actually came out in the video, was that I would rather avoid telling someone that I don't want to see them than taking on that responsibility of, seeing what they have to say or any type of conflict. It is what I would call the epitome of cognitive dissonance, where you think one thing and you behave a different way, which is the ultimate in self-justification, versus the relationship seeker, where the human is the center of the communication process. There's empathy, there's warmth, and there's love. The ironic thing is that these two individuals tend to get connected, okay? So now we have something with regards to attachment styles that actually needs to be looked at, all right? There's anxious attachment styles and avoidant attachment styles, and then there's secure attachment styles. So the anxious and the avoidance actually end up coming together because they meet each other's needs and complement one another in a very unhealthy way. So what does the future hold? So after looking at all of this stuff and being aware of how we have a model of relationships that's based on consumption, we have a consumer model of relationships where we shop for our relationships, and when we're done, we throw them out. Okay, same thing with sex. That's where we are. So obviously, from a logical perspective, the future holds, get to know your partner, know yourself first, right? Get to know your limits, get to know your boundaries, get to know what you like, what you don't like, making sure that you're taking time, okay, to get to know the other person and what their intent is, okay? But in a world where Samsung just patented smart contact lenses, where we're now soon going to be able to sense attraction in another person, and where we have teledildonics, okay, we're having virtual sex with dildos at this point. I don't know how hopeful I am for the future, but I will say this. What we need to do is begin to end relationships when we're done with them with dignity and respect and communication. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with a quote from a Native American elder. You might want to come in a little closer for this, okay? Lean in because this is really, really, really important. You ready? Pull those cameras in because this needs to be heard. You ready? Ladies and gentlemen, you have two hearts. You have two wolves in your heart. You have a wolf of love and you have a wolf of hate. It all depends on which one you choose to feed that day. So we need to end our relationships with dignity and show some damn respect for people that we're involved with.